Have you ever come up with a really clever solution to a problem only to have someone else look at it and call it cheating? It's beyond frustrating, isn't it? Well, it happens all the time. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to uncover the hidden psychological reason two people can look at the very same action and see completely different things.
So let's just put the question right out there. Is that clever mental tool you're using a genuine strategy, or is it an unfair shortcut? The answer, as it turns out, has almost nothing to do with the tool itself. And it has everything to do with how our brains are wired to see the world around us.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole conflict. You've got the accuser, who sees a shortcut. They see an unfair advantage, a way to get around what they consider the real work. But then you have the thinker. For them, it's not a cheat at all. It's a strategy. It's an adaptive tool that lets them work with their brain. It's a fundamental clash over what real learning even is.
Okay, to really unpack this, we're going to use a simple analogy. Now, it might seem totally unrelated at first, but stick with me, because this little story holds the key to the entire puzzle. Let's talk about a watch in a window.
First up, picture this. You see a gorgeous luxury watch sitting in the window of a high-end boutique. Everything is perfect. The lighting, the polished display. You're not just looking at something that tells time, are you? No, you're thinking about its story, its heritage. You're thinking about identity.
All right, now let's take that exact same watch and put it in the cluttered, busy window of a pawn shop. Suddenly, what are you thinking about? Not heritage, right? You're focused on the price tag. You're looking for scratches on the glass. You're thinking about the nuts and bolts of the deal. The whole feeling just changes.
So it's the same object, but the context completely flips how you think and feel about it. Why does that happen? What is going on inside our brains that makes our perception shift so dramatically? Well, the answer lies in this really cool concept from social psychology called Construal level theory. You can think of it like your brain having two different lenses it can use to look at the world, and which lens you use depends entirely on the context.
So here's the core idea. Construal level theory says that we can think about things in abstract, big-picture terms. That's what we call a high-level construal. Or we can zoom in and think in concrete, specific, detailed terms. And that's a low-level construal. The lens we use changes absolutely everything.
And this table just lays it out perfectly. Back in the luxury boutique, you were in high-level mode. You were thinking abstractly, asking the big why questions. Why is this watch so special? But the second you were at the pawn shop, boom, you switched to low-level mode. You focused on the concrete details, the how questions. How much does it cost? How bad are the scratches? Okay, so now let's bring it all back to our original problem. We're going to use these two lenses, the why lens and the how lens, to finally make sense of that clash between the person accusing and the person thinking.
See, the accuser is stuck in a low-level view. They see a tool, like a mnemonic, and their brain immediately zooms in on the how. They're focused on the mechanics of the trick itself. And from that super close-up, concrete perspective, of course it looks like a shortcut. It looks like a way to bypass what they see as the hard work.
But the 3D visual thinker? They're operating from a completely different place, a high-level view. They're not focused on the how at all. They're focused on the why. Why are they using this tool? To learn effectively. For their particular cognitive style, this isn't a cheat. It's a totally legitimate and adaptive strategy. It's just one piece of a universal human toolkit for learning that's been around for ages.
And I'm not exaggerating. This isn't some newfangled idea. Ancient cultures, from biblical times to Ugaritic traditions, relied on storytelling, on symbolism, on poetry, all forms of mnemonic tools, to pass down their entire history. The source material says it perfectly. These tools were respected, they were vital, they definitely were not stigmatized.
So here's the big aha moment. The conflict was never actually about cheating versus strategy. It was a clash of perspectives, a total communication breakdown between someone stuck thinking about the how and someone focused on the why.
And this is so powerful because, look, it's not just about defending a learning style. This is a practical tool for empathy, for better communication in literally every single part of your life.
Getting a handle on these two ways of thinking is like discovering an empathy switch in your brain. When you're faced with a behavior you just don't get, you can consciously make the choice to flip that switch. You stop judging their how and start getting curious about their why. It lets you see the bigger purpose behind what they're doing.
So how do you actually do it? Well, when you feel that friction, that disagreement, just pause. Instead of getting hung up on the action itself, ask, why might they be doing this? Try to see their bigger picture. And just as important, when you're explaining yourself, don't just talk about your method, your how. Explain your purpose, your why.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Think about a disagreement or a problem in your own life right now. What could you solve? What could you unlock if you just intentionally switched your focus from judging the how to understanding the why?